Hey beauties! Tonight, as we pamper our skin and unwind from the chaos of the day, I've got a real-life supernatural story that honestly sounds like fiction. To start off the story, let me ask you this. What if the ordinary isn't so ordinary after all? Imagine stepping into your usual morning bus. Same seat, same route, same sleepy eyes. But then, something feels off. The passengers are gone. The streets look unfamiliar, and the driver, well, he may not even be human. This is the haunting true story of Chinchal Pak, a man who thought he was on his daily commute, but might have boarded a one-way ride to the afterlife. So grab your toner, press in that essence, and settle in, because tonight's story might just blur the line between this world and the next. Let's get started. Have you ever wondered what it would feel like if something truly bizarre and unexplainable happened right on the street you walk every day? So imagine that a familiar bus stop where you wait each morning, the same sidewalk, the same routine. A place so ordinary, you would never expect anything out of the ordinary to happen there. But sometimes, even the most mundane places can hide the strangest secrets. What I'm about to tell you guys today is a chilling true story from a man named Chinchal Pak, who lives in the quiet countryside of Cheongyang, South Korea. Chinchal, this man was 40 years old. He worked at a small farm equipment factory in town. He was the kind of guy who led a completely normal life. Wake up, go to work, come home. Nothing out of the ordinary. He wasn't the kind of person who believed in ghosts or superstitions. So if you ever brought them up, he would just laugh it off. But after what happened to him one early morning, his whole outlook on life changed forever. This is the story of what Chinchal remembers as one of the most vivid and terrifying mornings of his life. Something happened at the small bus stop near his home. Something he still can't explain to this day. So it was just like any other weekday. Chinchal skipped breakfast and rushed out of the door. He always took the same 1001 bus to get to work. And this bus came at exactly 7 a.m. So to catch this bus, he had to be up and ready by 6 a.m. That morning, he did everything like usual, washed up, got dressed, and headed to the bus stop. But when he arrived, something was off. The digital sign above the stop displayed a strange message. Service suspended. What? He muttered to himself, frowning. Because it was a problem. If he missed that bus, the next one wouldn't come until like 8 a.m. And with work starting at 8:30, that meant he would be late, no question. Other commuters were also checking the display, clicking their tongues in annoyance, and one by one they gave up and left. But Chinchal didn't. He decided to wait for another bus, thinking he could maybe catch a taxi from a nearby stop. Then things started getting weird. The longer he waited, the quieter the surroundings became. It was supposed to be rush hour, but the usual crowd was gone. Not a single familiar face in sight. No footsteps, no chatter, just stillness. And strangely, even the local stores around the bus stop, usually open by now, remained closed. Shutters down, not a single sound coming from inside. So it felt like the entire village was somehow shut down for some reason. It wasn't a public holiday. There was no reason for the entire stores nearby to be shut down. Chinchal noticed it, the eerie calm, but he brushed it off. Maybe people were just running late. Maybe today was just different. And then he felt it, a sudden chill behind him, a cold breeze that didn't belong. So he turned around instinctively and froze. There, standing at the far end of the bus stop, where no one had been a second ago, was a woman, a stranger. This woman, she hadn't made a sound. He hadn't heard footsteps, but she was just there. And strangely, she was barefoot, standing silently in thin, pale clothing that didn't match the chilly autumn morning at all. A light dress fluttered faintly around her ankles, and something about her felt off because her skin was so pale that even the early morning sun couldn't bring any color to her cheeks. And beneath the long strands of hair that veiled part of her face, Chinchar caught a glimpse of her features, lifeless, drained of any warmth. So he just stared, a mix of curiosity and dread creeping into his chest. And then he noticed something. Her eyes, jet black, not dark brown or even shadowed. No, her eyes were as if someone had poured pure black ink into them. No whites, no light, just darkness staring directly at him. Chinchar's heart pounded, his instincts screamed, and he quickly looked away. But even then, he could still feel her gaze, cold and heavy, pressing into the side of his face. A shiver ran down his spine, and beads of cold sweat began to slide down his back. And when he finally gathered the courage to glance back, she was gone. Just gone, as if she had never been there. There was no sound, no footsteps, no trace. The corner where she had stood just moments ago was empty, completely empty. Chinchar felt like his mind was playing tricks on him. Maybe he was overtired. Maybe it was all just a weird illusion. So, trying to calm himself, he turned his eye back to the digital display. Still the same message. Service suspended. Route 1001. And he sighed. Maybe he should just call a taxi. He pulled out his phone and began searching for the local cab company's number. And that's when he saw something. Through the mist that clung to the distant road, a bus was approaching, slowly and quietly. There was no screeching of brakes, no honking, no noise at all, just a soft hum, like something gliding through a dream. As it came closer, Chinchar could make out the number on the front, 1001. And his breath caught in his throat. The same bus, the one that was supposed to be suspended, the one everyone had walked away from. And yet, here it was. But something felt wrong. As the massive vehicle pulled up before him, a suffocating silence settled around the stop. Even with the engine humming, the world itself seemed to grow quieter, as if everything else had been muted. No wind, no birds, no passing cars, just Chinchar and the bus. The door opened with a slow hiss. Inside, it was completely empty. No passengers, no chatter. Not even the driver's face was visible, just the outline of someone in the seat, shrouded in shadow. So Chinchar hesitated. But he was going to be late. That thought alone seemed to override his fear. Almost like he was being pulled, he stepped forward. And without fully realizing why, he boarded the bus. And that was the beginning. As soon as Chinchar boarded the bus and took his seat, the doors shut behind him with a quiet hiss. The bus eased forward again, gliding through the stillness like a ghost through the fog. At first, he let out a breath of relief. He would make it to work after all. But that relief didn't last long, because there was something off. So this was the morning rush hour. Normally, the bus would be packed with students and office workers. But today, the interior was completely empty. Chinchar was the only passenger. There was just silence. Even stranger, he couldn't see the driver's face. The figure behind the wheel was nothing more than a dark silhouette, obscured by shadows. Chinchar tried to shake the unease settling in his chest, but it clung to him like the cold air outside. He reached into his pocket and took out his phone, hoping music might help break the silence. But the screen didn't respond. No signal. The device, which had worked fine moments before, was now completely dead. No bars, no Wi-Fi, not even the home screen. It was like all communication had been severed the moment he stepped onto that bus. He turned to look out the window, but even that offered no comfort. Everything outside was swallowed in thick, gray mist. Chinchar couldn't recognize a single landmark. These weren't the roads he took every day. It was as if the bus was moving through an entirely different world. So he murmured under his breath, "Why does everything feel so wrong today?" The temperature began to drop rapidly. It had been a little chilly before, but now the air inside the bus was icy, the kind of cold that seeped into your bones. So Chinchar stood up, trying to ask the driver where they were going. But when he turned toward the front, he froze. The windshield, the dashboard, the driver's entire space was cloaked in a milky blur. It was as if there was a wall of fog separating him from the front of the bus. He couldn't make out anything clearly, not even the shape of the driver anymore. It felt weird. He reached up to press the stop button, but nothing happened. No ding, no response. So he pressed it again and again. Still nothing. The bus didn't slow down. It didn't stop at any of the familiar stations. It just kept going. Worse still, it began to veer off the usual route, taking turns Chinchar had never seen before. Heading into unfamiliar roads he was sure weren't part of any bus line. So panic set in. His heart began pounding. This wasn't the right bus. Something was terribly wrong. So he rushed toward the front again, hoping to get a better look at the driver. But the closer he walked, the further away the driver seemed. With every step, the cabin seemed to stretch. The distance between him and the front never seemed to shrink. He could feel the fear rising in his throat. And then a sound from behind, a soft, low sobbing. And that sound was coming from the back seat. He turned slowly. Someone was there. There had been no one else on the bus. He was 100% sure of it. But now in the very last row, someone was sitting. A figure with long black hair covering its face, pale skin, a thin white dress, bare feet resting quietly on the cold metal floor. It was her, the woman from the bus stop. She lifted her head slowly, and her ink-black eyes locked onto his. Chinchar couldn't move. He was frozen, rooted to the spot by her gaze. And all the while, the bus kept picking up speed, racing through the fog, deeper and deeper into the unknown. Chinchar stood frozen, goosebumps crawling across his entire body. The pale woman in the back seat slowly rose. Her movements were slow, almost unnatural, as if time around her moved differently. Then, without a word, she began walking toward him, each step echoing softly in the cold, empty bus. This isn't real. This can't be happening. He backed away instinctively, panic rising like a tide. Her pitch-black eyes, the same ones that had paralyzed him earlier, were now drawing closer. He turned and bolted toward the front of the bus. "Driver, please, let me off. Stop the bus," he screamed. He pounded on the door beside the driver's seat, screaming over and over, but there was no response. The figure in the driver's seat never turned, never even flinched. The thick fog still clouded the glass, making it impossible to see the driver's face clearly. And in that moment, Chinchar had the sickening thought, what if no one was driving this bus at all? Behind him, he could feel it, that unnatural chill drawing closer. The woman was approaching. Heart racing, Chinchar slammed his fist against the door. But the bus only moved faster. The engine roared as it sped down roads he didn't even recognize. And then, through the thinning fog, he saw something. The scenery outside was no longer familiar. These weren't the streets of Chongyang. The shops, the signs, the people, everything looked wrong. Very wrong. Outside the windows, people were standing along the streets, unmoving, just watching. Their faces were pale, almost gray, and every single one of them had those same jet-black eyes. Chinchar's hands trembled as he pulled out his phone again, desperate now. He pressed the power button. And it turned on. A small sliver of hope lit up inside him as he quickly dialed 119. But on the other end, nothing, only static. A strange, distorted noise filled his ear, like whispering from underwater. "Please, someone help me." Then, a voice right behind him. So he spun around. And the woman, she was there. The woman was now just inches from his face. Her hand shot out and grabbed his arm. Her touch was like ice, and he instinctively flinched. But then he saw her expression. She wasn't angry. She looked heartbroken. Her eyes, black as ink, shimmered with something else now. Sorrow. "You can't stay here," she whispered, her voice shaking. "You have to get off now." Chincher stood in stunned silence. Who are you?" She shook her head slowly, her grip tightening. "If you stay, you can't ever go back." Then, without another word, she turned and vanished into the shadows at the back of the bus. Snapped out of his daze, Chincher lunged toward the doors again, banging furiously. And that is when the bus abruptly began to slow. With a groan of its brakes, the vehicle rolled to a stop in front of an unfamiliar station. The doors opened, but outside, it was still not his world. The sky was dark, and the buildings were foreign. He hesitated, unsure whether stepping out meant escape or something worse. And then something shifted. The fog over the driver's seat began to clear, and slowly, the silhouette sitting there came into view. As the last of the fog cleared from the driver's seat, the figure turned slowly toward Chincher. He wore all black. His face was pale and hollow. But it was the eyes, those eyes that stopped Chincher in his tracks. They weren't human. They were endless, bottomless, like staring into a void where no light could ever return. Chincher stumbled backward, his voice barely a whisper. Who are you?" The driver gave a faint smile, full of sorrow. "I'm someone from the other side," he said. "Someone you shouldn't have forgotten." And then, like a crashing wave, memories Chincher had long buried came rushing back. Years ago, before moving to Cheongyang, Chincher had worked as a city bus driver in Cheongju. It had been a rainy day, ordinary in every way. He was behind the wheel of bus 703 when it happened. A truck lost control in the fog and slammed into his bus. The impact was devastating. Many of the passengers had died. Chincher had been found unconscious, taken to the hospital. He had survived. Barely, or so he thought. The figure in the driver's seat was now telling him, "You were on the list that day. You were supposed to die. That crash, that was the end written for you." "No," Chincher whispered, shaking his head. "I survived. I was saved." "No, you slipped through." The driver, now apparently the Reaper, replied coldly. "But no soul escapes forever," he said. And then the bus began to stir. From the once empty seats, pale figures slowly rose, one by one. The same passengers from that rainy morning. Their faces were hollow, their eyes black, their presence full of sorrow and longing. But beneath it all, a quiet, gnawing resentment. They all turned to Chincher and began walking toward him. "You're not supposed to be living," the Reaper said, "but it's not too late to correct that." Chincher backed away, shouting, "No, please, I don't want to die. Let me go." Then, this woman, she appeared again, the pale woman, the one who had first warned him. She moved quickly now, stepping between Chincher and the oncoming souls. Her cold hand gripped his arm tightly once more, but her eyes, still filled with grief, held something else this time. Hope. "You don't belong here," she said firmly. "You need to leave, now." She raised her hand and the sealed bus doors burst open with a loud hiss. The Reaper stopped mid-step. The spirits froze. "Go!" she shouted. "Now!" Without thinking, Chinchar lunged toward the open door, throwing himself into the blinding light outside. His body hit something hard, and everything went black. When he opened his eyes again, he was in a hospital bed. The white ceiling above him, the soft beeping of machines. A nurse rushed to his side. "Mr. Park, you're awake." "Where am I?" "You're at the Chongyang General Hospital. Someone found you unconscious near the bus stop this morning. They called for help and brought you in." Chinchar sat up slowly, disoriented. His clothes were still damp. His body was freezing, but he was alive. And yet, even as the hospital buzzed with normal life around him, he couldn't shake the chill that lingered in his bones. He couldn't shake the voice that echoed in his head, colder than death itself. "It's not just us you should fear. It's the fate you try to outrun. Every soul that escapes must one day return." Since that day, Chinchar has returned to his ordinary life and lives it with quiet gratitude. Sometimes he wonders if everything that happened was just a strange dream or a fleeting hallucination. Maybe it was all in his head. But deep down, he knows. He knows he met death that day and turned it away. From that moment on, Chinchar vowed never to take life granted again. He believes the second chance he was given was not his alone to claim. It was maybe a gift, one that came from the pale woman who saved him on that bus. Because of her, he chose to live with intention, with humility, and with gratitude. But even now, on certain nights, he says he still hears the cold hiss of the bus doors, feels the chill of that foggy road. He still hears the Reaper's voice in the distance, reminding him of what almost was. When that happens, Chinchar closes his eyes and says a silent prayer for those who never got off the bus, a quiet act of remembrance for the lost souls still wandering the mist. So what do you think? Maybe fate is real. Maybe for each of us, a moment comes when we're meant to leave, and death will come, whether we are ready or not. And maybe in that final moment, we are given a choice. And if that day comes for you, when the bus stops just long enough for you to step aboard, what will you do? Will you accept your fate, or will you fight it? Well, believe it or not, the choice might just be yours. But one thing is certain, every single day we wake up, every breath we take, every step we make, it's not something to take lightly. Because this moment, this day, this life is more precious than we'll ever know. Okay guys, that's a wrap for today. Sleep tight and see you guys in our next episode. Bye-bye.